Welcome back to GB News Breakfast with Stephen and Dawn. Time to go through the newspapers.
Yes, let's.
Yes.
The Telegraph has world leaders blaming Putin for the death of opposition leader Alexei Navalny.
Meanwhile, The Guardian expresses a global outrage over Alexei Navalny's death as Putin is blamed.
The Express says Navalny's widow is calling on world leaders to bring down Putin's regime.
Meanwhile, The Times says that Prince Harry might return to a temporary royal role to support his father during his illness.
And The Sun says Prince Harry considers becoming an American citizen, which means he'd have to give up his royal title.
Now, joining us to go through what's making you news, we have a great panel for you. Columnist and parliamentary sketch writer Madeline Grant and showbiz supremo Stephanie Tecci.
Good morning.
Morning, both of you. Thank you for coming in on a brilliant Saturday morning. Lovely to have you both. OK, Stephen, you're in charge. What paper would you like to start?
Mail, Madeline. Mail. Let's talk about Navalny, should we?
Yes, absolutely. Tragic news. The Mail leads with the story that Navalny's widow spoke publicly at the Munich Security Conference, calling on the world to avenge her husband's death and speaking out very publicly about that. And it's actually quite unusual from her because although she's been a great supporter of her husband throughout his life and through his various spells in prison and then in a penal colony in Siberia, she doesn't normally get involved so openly in taking to the podium in this way. And to manage to do that just hours after hearing of the death of your husband, the murder of your husband, just extraordinary bravery.
She didn't confirm it, actually. She didn't want to confirm about the death for some reason.
But interesting that you say murder.
Yes.
Now, I mean, the problem with this is, I mean, obviously, lots of accusations are being made, but we haven't got any facts, and the problem is we're not going to get them.
No, of course we're not. But I think there were videos of him. There was a video of him just the day before he died, shall we say, in which he looked perfectly healthy. Given Putin's track record in terms of what happens to those who oppose him, what has happened to dissidents in the past, what happens to many of his leading generals if they stand too close to a window, etc. I think the balance of probability would suggest that this was murder.
What would be the benefit of killing him, though?
I think a way of showing any kind of opposition that there is no hope. I mean, Navalny is his most high-profile critic and the leader of the kind of unofficial opposition against him. I think, you know, with an election coming up soon, it's probably a way of saying, you know, this is what happens to you, to try and quash hope in others that might try to oppose him.
I think this is going to backfire on Putin, though, because Navalny, he did a video, a previous video, where he says, if they kill me, it's because we're getting stronger. And now this has put this on the world's map. And again, the West is coming together to unite against this common enemy, which is Putin. And it's going to attack him more and more mentally for Putin, where the fact, how many more people can he kill? How many more times can he get away with this, you know? And I think by killing such a strong opponent like this, he's actually going to breed more people who are going to come against him.
The problem we've got is, what do we do? What are we meant to do with this? It's on the front page of every single newspaper today. It's wall-to-wall on the news broadcasts, and everyone's going, this is awful, this is awful. But what are we meant to do in the West?
What are the options, Madeline?
Support Ukraine, I think, is the best option.
Will this have any impact in the States, then, where obviously this $60 billion, is it, dollar plan or whatever it is, this huge plan is still sort of stalled in Congress?
Yeah, well, I think it will certainly be... It comes at uncomfortable timing, certainly for many of the Putin apologists in the Republican camp, and just days after that astonishing interview with Tucker Carlson. I think it will make a few people hopefully hang their heads in shame a little bit about how relaxed they have been about Putin and what he stands for. But no, in terms of what this does overall, I really don't know. I think that there is a very strong... And actually, I have some sympathy for it. America has been bankrolling European security for a long time. So, you know, they're not entirely without grievance when it comes to not wishing to get involved. But I think within the Republican camp, some of this has got into, you know, outright crankery and conspiracy theories.
Putin. Now, I'm quite intrigued by the, you know, Putin will pay angle, though, from the White House at the moment, because it's an interesting sentiment, but what does it actually mean?
Yeah, it's true, and we've been saying this for many years.
Well, Putin came out and said that. Biden came out and said that even, Dawn, in 2021. And I just think, I mean, is there the appetite in this country to continue funding the Ukraine when we are feeling the pinch ourselves at home?
Oh, don't even talk about that.
Well, yeah, no, it'd be interesting to know what you think, actually, about that one. But I don't know, can we just let him carry? I mean, this is what we always say when you look back at the history books, isn't it? They said, we wish you'd done something early. You can't just leave someone to carry on.
And in the Middle East, we have a good example of what happens when an aggressive country is allowed to continue acting aggressively in what's happened to Iran. You know, they thought that by lifting sanctions on Iran that it would be contained, and the exact opposite has happened. You know, sometimes you do have to deal with an aggressor in the only way that they know.
The only thing I don't understand about Putin is that he's got all the power that, you know, any man who's power crazy could dream of. And I just think, what is his goal here? How much does he want? How much power can someone like that not be satisfied with?
When he gets the USSR back, I think. All right, Stephanie, let's have a look. There's a couple of papers here, The Times and The Sun, both focusing on Prince Harry.
Yeah, he's been working the interview circuit because he's currently in Canada, looking ahead to the Invictus Games next year. So he's done an interview, and, you know, Prince Harry's like a journalist's dream because he's always going to give a bit of golden nuggets. And in an interview that he's done, he did say that he was considering becoming a US citizen. He said it's not high on his priority list, but as you can imagine, the papers are having a field day with this today. I doubt very much he would become an American citizen, especially as this week he's just launched Sussex.com, where he's using his royal titles. So if he was to become an American citizen, he, of course, will not be allowed to use those royal titles.
I can't imagine Meghan would want it.
No, it doesn't work for them financially. And I think, you know, there's contradictions in the papers today, because then in the Times we also have where he's saying that he would like to step in a temporary role for his father while his father is sick, because Harry is still a councillor of the States. So, you know, even though I doubt he will be called, he still does have that role. So I think he is seeming to want to hand an olive branch to the royals and make amends. You know, he did catch that flight to see his father only for about half an hour, 45 minutes, but he seems quite proud of himself for that and quite happy that they had that moment. But
I mean, it's interesting, Madeline, that look, I mean, people pick up on the negative, not surprisingly, with Harry at the moment. But, you know, he did talk about reconciliation, about illnesses bringing families closer together.
Yeah, I mean, that's often the way of things. In many families, that's the case, that a serious illness can bring a family together. However, it was unfortunate, I think, that he gave that interview to the press. This is part of the problem that led to the breakdown in relations, was the fact that the royal family felt that, you know, Harry couldn't be invited to things and, you know, that for them to share information with him without it immediately leaking out. And now he's I think what Stephanie said about him as the journalist's golden nugget, I mean, it's a very good point. He just can't seem to help himself when it comes to speaking to the press before anybody else.
I think one of the telling lines from this, though, Stephanie, was the fact he was talking about the joy his children gave him.
Yes.
How lovely it was to be a dad, which was lovely, and, you know, Archie and Lilibet, and sort of like how they made him laugh and made him smile, and how it was great to be a dad, which makes it even sadder that both Meghan and Harry are estranged, really, from their own dad.
Well, I think now is where they're really going to have to mend this now, because I think it's almost like reached the full saturation of this whole royal drama. And now that King Charles has been diagnosed with cancer and Kate is recovering from her surgery, those are the big things that matter now, not whatever's happened in the past. And I think for the royals themselves now, they're going to want to have to move forward. And there's going to have to be a new chapter, because you can't keep on feeding this toxicity of Harry and Meghan against the royal family, even though they could be blamed for some of the falling out of this. But we have to move on.
Yeah.
It feels like that will require perhaps a bit more in the way of an olive branch from William specifically. You know, it's well known that the king is desperate to reconcile and to have his family back. I mean, you know, he, especially having to confront your own mortality, as anyone with the cancer diagnosis does, you reevaluate things. But William has been very steadfast in not wanting much to do with his brother. So that will require some, I don't know, the Waleses will perhaps have to find some kind of compromise.
Maybe. Maybe.
Should we talk... Have we got time to talk dentists? This story terrifies the life out of me, to be honest with you. Madeline, it's your story, actually. It's not mine story. Foreign dentists are to be allowed to work in the UK without taking the exam to check the qualifications.
This is so...
Just turn up, yank someone's teeth out.
It's just so typical of this government. You know, the answer to everything is to import more people, never get to the underlying problem of why perhaps there is a shortage of dentists, why dentistry across the country has been in disarray. It's like, oh, no, we'll just import a bunch of people. And potentially the idea that you scrap the overseas exams for something as high stakes as dentistry. On the one hand, you can't say it's so important that we must respond to it with this new policy, while also saying it's unimportant enough that we will waive the exam qualifications that we would normally need.
It's very odd.
Yeah, I just find
it's very odd.
I get that at the moment we have people in this country who are pulling their own teeth out. Remember, like you were kids used to tie a bit of string around to the door and slam it, and people are repairing fillings with super glue.
Yeah.
So we've got to do something. But as you say, Madeline, I mean, we you know, it's like work out why there's a shortage of dentists.
Yes.
Not just import more people to sort the problem out.
Always, always. And this is just... It shows the short-termism. Also, I suspect it probably is a false economy. It's all about dealing with the shortage in the next, 2 to 3, 5 years, never about the long-term prospects. But, of course, those who come here often bring their families require care, their families require public services. So, in the long run, it may end up costing the country more. It's classic short-termism at the expense of a longer-term plan.
Are we talking NHS dentistry here, rather than private dentistry? It doesn't really seem to say, does it? Which is, I mean, there's no point importing a load of more private dentists.
No,
because people who
can't afford them.
Yeah.
But I think, what Dawn is saying is, people are so desperate now. If you can't even get an appointment with a dentist, you know, you'll take the next best thing going. You won't even... I don't know how many people actually, when they do go for medical appointments, really check people's qualifications and, you know...
Well, that was the other story this week, actually, wasn't it, Stephanie? And people are actually going to the Ukraine to get dentistry work. A war zone.
Yeah.
It's easier to get a better dentist in the Ukraine than it is here.
Shockingly cheaper.
But there is also this massive shortage. I mean, I've been trying to get, you know, just booked into a dentist near me, and they're all backed up to the hills.
Yeah.
So the nearest one I could actually get registered with was miles away from where I live. You know, it is a shocking shortage of dentists in the service.
Oh, dear.
Should we talk something that might need you to see a dentist?
Yes, well, it sounds quite nice, actually. Giant pasty, Stephanie.
Yeah, a 2-foot Cornish pasty. Philip's Bakery in Cornwall, they've introduced this massive 2-foot Cornish pasty, and it's 20,000 calories.
What?
20,000 calories, and it costs £28. I wish we had a picture of it to show. It's 10 times the daily intake for women, and it comes available in steak, mince, beef and cheese. And it's all handmade as well, yeah. It looks quite tasty, but very calorific. We should have a picture of it.
Is it one of those pasties that look like a tortoise, that shape?
I'm trying to work out who's it for. What's it on sale? Is it someone with a big family, maybe?
Oh, it doesn't look that...
It doesn't
look that
Stephen.
massive, though. Let me just...
It's not to scale, Stephen.
No, but there's one underneath.
God.
There's
I
one
feel like I
underneath
could make...
and a can of pop underneath. It doesn't... It looks like I could eat that.
I know, same. I'm kind of worried.
Go. Could you eat that in one go?
Yeah, I think I probably could.
Oh, well, it's 20,000 calories?
20,000 calories, come on.
Like
that's 10 times the daily intake for women.
Yeah.
That's a lot of dog walking.
They're more like guidelines
That's a lot of
anyway.
burpees.
That's honest. Oh, mind you, I'll tell you what, there's a picture at the bottom.
Yeah.
Get a shot. There's a lady at the bottom here holding it. Now, that makes it look... That puts it in a bit more context.
Yeah.
Get it on...
Oh. Yeah.
Which way do you want it?
It looks like...
That's more like it.
Yeah,
now,
there
look at
we
that.
go.
Now, I couldn't eat that.
No.
If you imagine, if you're listening on the radio, imagine someone holding up one of those giant Galapagos tortoises. That's what it looks like.
Yes,
You're don't eat the tortoise, though. Eat the pasty instead.
Yeah.
That's too heavy.
It's a family feast, is that?
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
That can go between 3 people, I think.
Oh,
3.
well, I was going to say 6, Stephanie. It's like in your household.
We like to eat.
Where's it being made? Philip's Bakery in Cornwall, in Hale.
Yeah.
It's
There you
R.
go.
I've just seen that R, normal R, as in Cornish R.
28. It's £28.
Yep.
Oh, well, there you go.
£28 for a
I
pasty.
wonder how many people buy one of them. don't know, quite nice. I like a Cornish pasty.
I would love to go to Cornwall to taste the pasty out there. I've never been to Cornwall.
Really?
No. I would love to go.
Well, I don't know. Do they taste different in Cornwall than anywhere else?
If you're having your breakfast this morning and you happen to be eating a 2-foot, 20,000-calorie Cornish pasty, do let us know. GBViews at GBNews.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. Would you have chips with it, though, Stephen?
No, just on its own. That'd be nice, on its own. Lovely. Stephanie Tetchy, Madeline Grant, thank you very much indeed. We shall see you both a little bit later on. And keep your thoughts coming through on anything we're covering this morning. GBViews at gbnews.com. But now let's get a look at the weather for you this morning.